Now more than ever, it is very difficult to separate work life and home life. With our phones in our pocket and our laptops always right there in reach, it is easier than ever to blur the lines between work and home. Society expects successful people to be working at all hours of the day, but the truth is we all need rest. Establishing a work life and home life balance is incredibly important to both your physical and mental health. Sometimes it can feel like we are willingly putting ourselves behind by not working as much as we can, but it's important to realize that the quality of our work increases when we get the proper amount of rest and self-care. And more importantly, we need that separation. I have seen a lot of people argue if you can ever truly achieve work-life and home-life balance. And while it's difficult, I do think that it's something that we should be constantly working towards. It's important for us to strive to balance those two. If you're like me, I know you have tried time and time again, because I'll be honest, I blur those lines a lot too, but it is something that I am constantly working to improve upon. So here are some strategies that I want to share to help us to create that work-home life balance. First, identify your values. The very first step in creating a work-life balance is to identify the things that you value most. What are the things that are really important to you in your life? What are the things that you absolutely cannot miss? What are the opportunities that you absolutely have to take? What are the things that you absolutely love to do? Who or what deserves your time the most? All of these are very important questions that you really need to take some time to consider. Identifying your values will help you to make decisions that prioritize your time to doing the things that you love the most. Although we understand that business success is important, home life is equally important, if not more important. We can't forget that we cannot take the things that we love for granted. That means the people, our health, or the hobbies that we love. Making time for those things that we love is very important. When we do this, we can ensure that our happiness goes beyond what we do in the workplace. I mean, we obviously can't deny that work holds an important place in our life too, because like I tell my family all the time, if I don't work, we don't get the fun that we get to have. So obviously work does deserve our attention too, but making time for the things and the people that we love doesn't mean that we have to completely neglect or sacrifice our career. When we balance our work and home lives, we use organization and planning to make sure that we can get the most out of both. A fulfilling career and a happy family is very possible, but it does take some work and some intentional effort. My next tip is to establish strict work hours. Thanks to technology, we can mostly work wherever and whenever we want to, right? And also, thanks to technology, we can work whenever and wherever we want. That makes it very difficult for work and home to just kind of mix, especially with so many people working from home, and it makes it very difficult to separate the two. You have to tell yourself that you are not getting ahead by working in your free time. It is tempting with this level of work access for us to continue working when we have free time, but we have to tell ourselves, and we have to be really intentional that when we do that, it's sometimes hard for us to tear away or end work. So we have to try to establish those strict work hours. Before you even begin working, if it's possible, go ahead and decide when you're going to start and when you're going to end. And try your best not to do any work outside of those hours. This allows you to set a boundary with your time. Unless an emergency pops up, you don't need to be working outside of those hours that you set for yourself. To make it easier, go ahead and let your colleagues and clients know what your work hours are so that they don't cross those lines. Letting them know gives them the opportunity to know and respect the boundaries that you set for yourself. Along those same lines, you need to create a transition ritual. There needs to be a clear line about what's work and what's home. You should consider establishing a transition ritual that will help your body and mind move from work to home. This should include a change of clothes or a change of places. This helps to alert your body when it's in work mode and when it's in home mode. You also need to establish where you will work. Set a specific work area. If you don't have an office, maybe there is a specific area in your home that you will designate for work. And you need to be clear about this is where work occurs. And when you're not in that area anymore, work shouldn't be happening. Do that every day to help establish a routine with yourself and also with the people in your house. They should know when you're in your specific work area and you're in work mode, they can't bother you. And when you're not in that area, it's time to be at home. My next tip is to disconnect. Oftentimes we work and work and work without even thinking about that we're still working. Our work emails find their way directly into our personal cell phones. I'm guilty. And we find ourselves doing work without even paying attention to it. When we are constantly tapped into the internet, we are presented with ideas and issues that we feel we have to solve right at that moment. Guilty. It's difficult to maintain a work-life and home-life balance if we are constantly tapped into and connected to the world of work. So it is very important for us to give ourselves that opportunity to disconnect from work. We have to escape that 24/7 grind of the workplace. Consider completely disconnecting from your technology once you end your workday. If you can, have separate devices for work and home. Put your phone on silent mode if you can and store it away. Store away your laptop if you can. Another thing is to try to disconnect from your device a few hours before bed. There are so many experts that say that disconnecting about an hour before bedtime really helps you to get that deep sleep that you need to get a good night's rest. Also, decreasing your technology at home gives you that opportunity to connect with your family and friends. My next tip is to plan early and often. In most situations where our work life gets in the way of our home life, lack of planning has occurred. When we take that time to plan our time, we are better able to manage that work life and home life. You really want to pay attention to home or personal events that you don't want to miss so that you're not scheduling work meetings at that same time if you can help it. Try your best to go ahead and plan out as early as you can. If you know that you have events coming up, go ahead and get them on your calendar so that you don't make scheduling mistakes. My next tip is to learn to say no. One of the most difficult things to do in your professional life is to say no to certain responsibilities. When our colleagues and bosses want us to take on more work that interferes with our personal life, we have to prioritize our own time and choose additional responsibilities accordingly. If these extra responsibilities are not absolutely necessary, you gotta learn to say no or to ask for help with those tasks. This can be really difficult for us who are success driven and we may be trying to climb the ladder at work. It can be difficult to say no, but you really need to take some time to think about it and prioritize so that you are not getting yourself overwhelmed and doing too much. If you really think about it, if we take on too much at work, the quality of that work diminishes, and is that really beneficial for anybody? That's going to have us producing mediocre work, and that's not going to lead us to success anyway. And really, when you think about it, additional work successes can be really rewarding, but is it worth sacrificing your family? You have to think about that. Take time to really examine those extra responsibilities, weigh the pros and cons, and see if it's really worth it. My last tip is to learn to forgive yourself. We can't do it all, and we won't always get it right when we're trying to create that work-life and home-life balance. But I do want you to forgive yourself when you mess up. When you find yourself working all times of night because you have a certain deadline that you have to meet, forgive yourself. No one's perfect. We all have those times when we really have to give our time and attention to a certain task. And I understand that. There are times when you have to miss one of your kids' games. I've had to do that more times than I care to admit. But you forgive yourself because we know that there are some things that we just have to do. But being intentional about that keeps us from blurring those lines and making it really hard to see the difference between work life and home life. Understanding the importance of that balance is really what I want you to do, because when you understand that it is important for you to balance these two things, it's easier for you to be intentional about creating that balance or about creating habits that are going to help you to create the boundaries that you need to balance your work life and home life. I hope that this video has motivated you to make some changes if you are someone who has blurred the lines between work and home. But each time I do that, I make an intentional effort to do something different so that it doesn't happen as often. I have an entire blog post about creating work-life balance that I will link below in the description so that you can check it out. I hope that I will see you over there on the blog. Thanks so much for tuning in today. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and subscribe and hit the alert button so that you are notified every time I put out a new video.